All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today on the 8th and final day of Hanukkah. Today, we are on page 341 in the Aura Vigdor for those who are following along. And today's shiur Shabila Ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dova Cohen, and B'schos l'Refuah Shalema B'karav Meshalom ben Sarachal, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Sarah Bas Esther Yachid. Today, we are continuing on the 7 different areas that a person who has Bitachon versus a person who lacks Bitachon today, how they behave in the normal course of events in a day. And today we're going to be talking about more of the tranquility. Now, I want you to understand that when it comes to tranquility, this is something that on face value, again, just like the first one, the second difference is, when it comes to tranquility, you can't see the difference in one person who has Bitachon and a person who does not have Bitachon. The reason is because it's also something that's internalized, something that's in the mind, something that makes you have peace of mind. And therefore, unless you know these two individuals very well, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two of who has Bitachon and who does not have Bitachon. Now, how does that work? The trusting person, the person who has Bitachon, V'hasheni, and the second difference between those people are, is that the mind of the one who trusts in Hashem is always tranquil, is always at peace. And his heart is serene in spite of the harsh decrees that other troubles that befall him. Meaning, his heart is always at peace at the fact that he has trials and tribulations, the obstacles, the challenges in his life. Yet he still has a peace of mind every single day. Because he knows that Hashem will guide him to what is good for him in this world and in the next world. This person who has peace of mind, this person who has Bitachon, and his day-to-day, how he operates, he knows that in whichever way he goes about, that is the correct avenue. Why? Because that's what Hashem sends his way. That's what Hashem puts him on that trajectory. But he also knows that he needs to do his part. And this is something that is very, very important. And we say it over and over again. The person who lacks Bitachon versus the person who has Bitachon, there's no difference in their work ethic. And this second difference between those two individuals is that one, when he does his work, he knows it doesn't make a difference what the outcome is. He's at peace of mind because he knows that's what Hashem wants. The person who lacks Bitachon with the same exact work ethic is never at peace with himself. He's always anxious. He's always trying to figure out how to go about his day in order to make more money or whatever he's just trying to do. David HaMelech once said, my soul waits quietly only for Hashem because my hope is for him. What he's saying over there is that the person who has Bitachon, when he goes about his day-to-day obligations, he's always at peace. He's always feeling that connection to Hashem, and he knows that whatever he does is Hashem's will. Whatever the outcome is that's Hashem's will. Now, the non-trusting person, so in this difference between the two, but a person who does not trust in Hashem, even when things are going well, he's also constantly distressed. Why? Why when things are going well is he constantly distressed? Protracted way of mourning and sadness, as he tried to add, increase, and collect his possessions. A person who's always at peace with himself and is trusting understands the amount of money, in this example that he brings, that he has, is exactly what Hashem wanted to have at this moment. And so he's fine with that. The person who's successful, who makes a lot of money, who amasses a lot of properties, or whatever it is that he's chasing, that he gains a lot out of, he's still not at peace with it. Why? Because he wants to get more and more and more. And he's looking forward to the third quarter projections and fourth quarter projections and next year's projections. And he needs to be more and more, and he's never happy with that. And so the difference between these two people, again, same work ethic for both of these people, but at the same time, one of them is living with a much more calm life, and the other person, again, who also a very successful person, but he's never calm, he's never at ease, he's never at peace, he's never happy with what he has. He's never satisfied because he's always trying to get more and more. That's a huge difference. And he finishes off over here and says, Baram Ripnei Shehu Katzba. When things go badly, this person who's non-trusting, the person who lacks Bitachon today, when things don't go well, he is upset because he's disgusted at the situation. As it conflicts with a desire that he has to earn more and more. And this is also what Shlomo Melech says, Kol yemei ani ra'am v'toiv leiv mishteh tamid. All the days of man who is poor in the mind are bad days, but a man who is cheerful of heart is a continual feast. The metaphor is very, very simple. A man who has a poor mindset, even the good days seem sad. Why? Because his mindset is negative. His mindset is poor. He doesn't understand the ups and downs and how things work, right? That wave of life. However, a person who has a Torah mindset, who has a trusting mindset in Hashem, that person has this, what Shlomo Melech calls the continual feast. He's always happy. It's always yontif by him. It's always a holiday. Because his mindset is always to be trusting and believing that whatever is going on right now is exactly what Hashem wants us to have. And this last part, Rabbi Victor Miller says, is a very important statement for everybody to learn. And he says, the pasuk over here, the verse over here refers to a person with bitachon as a tov lev, as he has a good heart, and literally a good heart in the context. It means someone who has an understanding of the world. That's what it means. But he says the word lev over here, the word heart over here, actually refers to the mind. So a tov lev is a man with a good mind. That is a person who has a good understanding of life. And this person who has a good understanding of life understands when I go to work every single day, no matter what the outcome is, this is the plan. This is how Hashem works in His ways. Now, we hope we have an outcome that we think should be a favorable outcome. What we think we want is what's favorable to us. And we hope we get that. We hope it aligns with Hashem's meaning of His goodness, His kindness towards us. But at the end of the day, this person who has a tov lev, a lev tov, or in this case, Mishlei and Rabbi Victor Miller kind of interpret that as a mindset. The proper mindset is that he understands that this world runs in a certain system and of cause and effect. He understands that Hashem runs this world a certain way, and we cannot understand that system and how that works. But he has a good understanding of the world and how it works, and how that works is that Hashem runs it. And therefore, he's at peace with himself with that. Whereas the person who does not have what he calls a leif tov, a person who does not have a good understanding of how the world works, is never at ease. He's always anxious. He's always, kind of worried about what's going on because he doesn't understand that Hashem runs this world. That is the second difference. Now, the third difference we're going to get into, it's a little bit longer, but the second difference is reliance on his means, meaning reliance on his means of earning a living. Is where is that reliance lie? Is it in your handiwork, in your craft, in your ability to run a business? Is it in your career as a doctor or whatever, or a lawyer, whatever that is? Where is your reliance on your means of earning a living? Where does that come from? Now, the trusting person in fashion, we're going to talk first about the person who has bitachon and then the person who lacks bitachon today. Vashlishi, the third difference between a person who trusts in Hashem and a person who does not. The person who trusts in Hashem, even if he utilizes the means to earn his livelihood, protect his health, or ensure safety to accomplish something, he does not rely on them. What does that mean? You go to work every single day. You go to the gym, a couple of times a week. You eat healthy. You try not to eat too much fried food that we did like this whole last week, right? And you ensure the safety of yourself by wearing a coat in the winter, locking the doors to your home at night. All those different things, those are your Hishtadlus, your things that you need to do in order to keep safe, because that's what Hashem wants you to do. But do you rely on the locks of your doors to keep the burglars out? Do you rely on the exercise that you do 3 times a week, 4 times a week in order to stay healthy? Do you rely on the way you do work in order to earn a living? That is the big difference. The person with bitachon is the person that doesn't rely on those means. He merely does those things for the one sake that Hashem asked him to do his Hishtadlus. We know that Hashem put us on this world and He asks us to utilize the things that are provided to us on this earth, on Olam Hazeh, in order to sustain ourselves, to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves healthy, to support our homes, our wife, our children. That is what Hashem gave us to utilize. But the person who has Bitachon doesn't rely on those means to give him the results that he's looking for. He knows he goes to the gym every single day, but that's not going to protect him from his health. Because we have seen so many times that the person who eats organic, runs 16 miles a week, and stays away from all the processed foods, they also still wind up getting cancer, just like everybody else. So it's just like the person who yells at you and says that Splenda causes cancer. It says it on the package, supposedly. I never read it, but I heard it says that. But the same person who's drinking a coffee with Splenda is at this just as risk as the person who eats strictly organic and runs and exercises every single day. The person who works the same exact job or business or industry that someone else, one is poor or one is rich, has nothing to do with each other. So the person who has Bitachon in Hashem differs from the person who lacks Bitachon, is that the person who trusts never relies on those things in order to give him his results. He understands that those things are there for him just to do, because he needs to do to fulfill the avodas Hashem. Hashem asked him to go out and do something. You need to provide for your family, go out and get a job, start a business, whatever that is your obligation. Your obligation is not to make sure that you have enough money at the end of the day. Your obligation is to make sure you get up and go to work every single day and work the appropriate, what it requires, not to sit with your feet up all day and say, oh, I clocked in and clocked out. That's not how it works. You don't just clock in and clock out and say, oh, I did my hours. You didn't do your hours if you didn't put your true, energy into that job. You need to do that. Now when this person who's trusting in Hashem gets up every single day, does his part, and the person who trusts in Hashem, he understands that he does not rely on the tasks that he does in order to get his outcome. When things go well, the Chovos says, if these means bring him the benefit or save him from harm, meaning that he starts running every single day and he gets thinner and leaner and builds up his muscle, he lifts weights, he does exercise, he eats healthier, he goes to his job and builds up his company, he has more sales, he increases revenue, he has better profit margins, right? He does all those different things in order to sustain himself, and he realizes, he will thank Hashem alone for this. And he knows when he does all these different tasks that he's asked for to do avodas Hashem, he knows that when he succeeds at this, when things are going well, he looks up to Hashem and he says, thank you, Hashem, for all these. Because he understands 100% of what his efforts had zero to do with him, and that the outcome that he gets is only to do with Hashem. Sorry, that 100% of your efforts is you, but the outcome has zero to do with you. 100% of your outcome only comes from Hashem. He does not become more enamored of these activities of his professional field any better and say, oh wow, I can build more, I can be bigger, I'm richer, I have a bigger company. He thanks Hashem every single time he does better in what he has now, and the growth that he has, he's always thanking Hashem, because he realizes that although he chose the right means in order for him to earn a living, or the right exercise regimen, or the right protein and carb intake, whatever that is, and he's getting the results that he was looking for, at the end of the day, those are the results that Hashem wanted for you as well. And the proof is there are plenty of people doing the same exact thing, and yet they don't have the same results. For you, Hashem wanted those results. And you should thank Hashem for giving you those results. Also thank Hashem that the efforts that you put in gave it to you, because it's a nice thing when you get it through your efforts as well. Now, when things don't work out, the same person who trusts in Hashem, when things don't work out, if these means do not help him, he does not make enough money, he's not losing weight, he's not gaining that muscle, he's not getting healthier at the doctors, whatever it is that he chose as a method, as a human being, to choose to gain success, or whatever he's looking for in the outcome, when those outcomes do not come to him, the outcomes that he desires, he knows that his health and his livelihood will come to him when Hashem wants him to have it. In whichever way Hashem wishes for those things to come. And he does not become disgusted with his current means of his business, his industry, his job, or the doctors that he's chosen, or the exercise regimen that he chose. Whatever it is that he chose in order to gain the outcome that he's looking for, and it's still not working, He doesn't get disgusted at it. He doesn't blame anybody. He understands that he's going to continue doing his part. Yes, if he's doing something that has zero benefit to him, so like Rabbi Victor Miller says over here, there are sometimes that an industry goes stale. It gets, extinct. Right? Back in the day, there was the person who sold horse and buggies because everybody bought horse and buggies in order to go around, get around places. And today, people are driving cars. So the horse and buggy salesman should pivot, right? I like that word pivot. We got it. We got that in 2020, I think. So we use the word pivot. He pivots onto becoming a car salesman. Yes, there are some times if there's an industry that dies out completely, you should change. But if an industry or an economy is experiencing a hardships, a downturn for a particular time frame, don't get disgusted with it. Don't jump ship. Stick with it. Stick it out, because at the end of the day, Hashem is not going to change your luck necessarily because you changed industries. It's not going to be better over here or better over there. It doesn't make a difference. You're supposed to get your part. You're supposed to do your proper Hishtadlus, what makes sense. Follow proper ways of doing business, right? Don't be reckless. Or when it comes to your health, don't be reckless by eating all kinds of foods that are not good for you, and then expect not to gain weight and not to gain, have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes and all that fun stuff. You have to be protective of those things. You have to do what makes rightfully sense to you. And that's the person who has trust. Now, finally, the person who does not have trust in Hashem, how does he conduct his day when it comes to getting what he wants? But a person who does not trust in Hashem, he utilizes the means that he has available because of his confidence in them. It means that he built this company and he says, wow, the only way I'm going to make a living is if I build up this company. When he does make a lot of money, he's like, you see, this is what's making me a living. And this is what he trusts in. He doesn't put any kind of faith in Hashem in it whatsoever. And so all his Hishtadlus, everything that he does, whether it's doctors, whether it's his exercise, it all boils down to what he put in his effort, the methods that he chose in order to get it done. And so what happens is, he's always on that train that only he can make those changes for himself. The benefits that he gets out of it, the outcome that he's looking for is only he himself. The problem with that he runs into is that when things don't go his way, there's an economic downturn, he gets disgusted. He jumps ship too quickly. He moves away and he doesn't ever thank Hashem. And at the end of the day, he's not at peace with himself because he can never be. If he thinks he's always the one that's the one making it happen, then the moment that he takes a day off from work or he's not feeling well, he feels like, oh, it's never going to work out for me. I'm not going to have an easy life. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. But you have to understand at the end of the day, what you are supposed to get, you will have. What you're not supposed to have, you won't ever get in your life, no matter how hard you try. So the difference over here, the person who has trust in Hashem versus a person who doesn't have trust in Hashem today, someone who's working on his Bitachon in Hashem, is that peace of mind. And it's one of the biggest benefits that you can get with Bitachon, is peace of mind. It truly changes who you are as a person. It changes in your professional life. It changes in your social circles. It definitely changes in your home life. It makes you a person more pleasant to be around. Not by choice. When a person doesn't trust in Hashem, a person is always anxious. It's just something that you can't help yourself. It's hard. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing to go about your day and not getting the results you're looking for, whether it's financial, whether it's health, whether it's a shidduch, whether it's medical, having a child, whatever that is. It's a very difficult place to be and to deal with. So at the end of the day, peace of mind is probably one of the biggest benefits that you can gain out of having true trust in Hashem. Because you have much, much calmer, easier days. And now when people come and talk to you, whether it's your wife, your child, you have patience, you have time, you're not pushing them away, you're not anxious, your mind is not elsewhere. Your mind is not floating on like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? No. You're someone who knows you're going to get up tomorrow morning, you have to go to work and make sure you get a paycheck. But at the end of the day, how much you earn is not up to you. And so when you sit down at night and your child wants to have a word with you, and your wife wants to have a conversation with you, your mind is not elsewhere. You're not splitting your focus into 2 or 3 or more places that you shouldn't be. And so one of the biggest benefits, I reiterate, and why people should study Shaar HaBitachon, and is in this piece alone, is that peace of mind that you get from being a Baal Bitachon, from someone who trusts Hashem. It's something that if you internalize it, and it takes time, but when you internalize it, you can see your day to day. It's hard for you even to get upset at someone when you have Bitachon. Do you know that? It's a difficult thing. Yesterday, I got annoyed at a store. I ordered something. They said I'll be ready in a half hour. It was like 2 hours later. Still wasn't ready. I showed up in the store, and like on the way, I was like, I'm gonna yell. I got there. I couldn't even yell at the guy. I couldn't even be mad at the person. I smiled, and he smiled back. He said, "Okay, it is what it is." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And then a few minutes later, my order was ready. But at the end of the day, practicing Bitachon, it changes you as a person who you are in every single aspect. It really, really helps you. It helps you grow. It helps you have more clarity. And there's so much more I could say about this, but peace of mind is the biggest piece that I love for myself, and I think it's so much more for others as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today. Have a wonderful on the final day of Hanukkah. There's a lot of miracles that can happen still. The day is still long. Thank you for joining, and as always, I love each and every one of you.